the air catches in my throat. It's not just the dust motes dancing and the single shaft of sunlight slicing through the dining room window. It's the dust of shattered things, the pulverized remains of a life I thought was solid. He stands across the polished oak table, the same table we signed the mortgage papers on, the same table where we carved pumpkins and folded laundry and planned futures. His posture is loose, arrogant. A suit he used to wear to celebrate promotions, now just armor for a coward. Beside him, she stands, a pale imitation of the friend I swore I knew better than my own reflection. Her eyes avoid mine, fixed somewhere on a point beyond my shoulder, a silent, shameful confession written in the stiffness of her neck. His gaze, however, is locked onto mine. It's cold, empty, and worst of all, victorious. There's a slight tilt to his head, a carefully rehearsed pity playing on his lips, but it doesn't reach his eyes. No, in his eyes, there's only the sharp, gleaming edge of triumph. He gestures around the room, the home we built, every plank of wood, every painted wall holding echoes of shared laughter and whispered promises. The afternoon light catches the framed photos on the sideboard. Our wedding day, a trip to the coast, a simple Tuesday afternoon on the sofa. They feel like relics from another century, another dimension. He sighs, a performative exhalation of regret, as if this is difficult for him. The sound grates on my nerves, a fingernail dragging down a chalkboard. Then, the words come, slow and deliberate, each one a small, sharp stone thrown directly at my heart. His voice is low, almost a murmur, designed to inflict maximum damage in the quiet of this room that used to hold our peace. He spreads his hands, palms up, an exaggerated gesture of finality. And then the smirk. It curls the corner of his mouth, a cruel, self-satisfied twist that makes my blood run cold. It's not just a facial expression. It's a declaration, a brand. He says it, the words I will forever hear echoing in the cavern of my chest, delivered with the casual cruelty of a man discarding trash. You have nothing left. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps me more than you know. Before the dust, before the silence that screamed louder than any fight, there was noise. Our house was full of it. Full of laughter, sometimes arguments quickly smoothed over, the clatter of dishes, the hum of the washing machine always running because life, our life, was messy and busy and wonderfully, relentlessly ours. This house, it wasn't just walls and a roof. It was the container of our history. The worn patch on the rug where the dog used to sleep, the faint watermark on the kitchen ceiling from that time the pipe burst, and we fixed it together, laughing hysterically while soaked to the bone. The garden he meticulously tended, the flowers blooming in riotous color each spring, a promise of renewal I believed in with every fiber of my being. It was here, in this house, that we built our world. And she was part of it. My best friend. The sister I chose. Sarah. We met in college, two awkward young women navigating a confusing world, finding solace and strength in each other. We shared everything, secrets, dreams, bad dates, good wine. She was the first person I called with any news, big or small. She was there the day I met him, sat across the table, pretending to read a book but watching, a subtle smile playing on her lips as she saw the spark ignite between us. She was at our wedding, standing beside me, tears in her eyes as I said my vows. She was woven into the fabric of our lives. Dinners together, weekend trips, late-night phone calls dissecting everything and nothing. I trusted her implicitly. She knew my flaws, my fears, my deepest vulnerabilities. And she knew his too, the small, annoying habits I loved, the quiet kindness beneath his sometimes gruff exterior. They were friends too, in their own way. A comfortable, easy camaraderie. It felt perfect. Two people I loved most in the world, existing harmoniously in the space I called home. The house wasn't grand, not a mansion by any stretch. It was a simple, comfortable place, filled with warmth and the quiet accumulation of shared memories. It felt safe, unbreakable, a fortress built on love and trust. We had plans. Big plans. Renovations, future children playing in the garden, growing old together on the porch swing. It wasn't just a house. It was the foundation of everything. My security, my identity, my future. The crack was silent. Insidious. Like a hairline fracture in a window pane that you don't notice until the whole thing shatters. Looking back, the signs were probably there, tiny tremors I dismissed as stress, busy schedules, the inevitable shifts in a long-term relationship. His late nights at work became more frequent, his phone a constant, private appendage he guarded with subtle intensity. Her visits grew less spontaneous, more deliberate, sometimes coinciding with his late nights. She'd just be passing by, stopping in for a quick cup of tea, her presence feeling less like a friend's comfort and more like a spy's surveillance. I attributed it to their shared industry. They worked in similar fields, facing similar pressures. I was naive, blinded by the sheer impossibility of it. The idea of betrayal, of this kind of calculated cruelty, felt alien to the world I inhabited. The air in the house started to feel different. Thinner. Colder. A tension I couldn't name, a weight I couldn't lift. My sleep became fractured, filled with vague, unsettling dreams I couldn't recall upon waking. A knot formed in my stomach, a constant, low-grade anxiety I tried to push down with busyness, with forced cheerfulness. I'd ask him about his day, and his answers would be clipped, vague. I'd ask Sarah how she was, and she'd avoid my eyes, her laughter brittle, too loud. The quiet conspiracy was already suffocating me, and I didn't even know it. Then came the day the air went out of the world entirely. It wasn't a dramatic confrontation born of mounting suspicion. It was accidental, mundane, a forgotten phone. His. Lying on the kitchen counter. I saw a notification flash across the screen. A message preview. From Sarah. Something innocuous enough on the surface, but the tone, the intimacy of the words, the context. It hit me like a physical blow. My hands started to tremble. A cold dread spread through me, chilling me from the inside out. Every nerve ending fired at once. The knot in my stomach tightened into a vice. I knew instantly. The world tilted on its axis. The silence in the house became deafening. I picked up the phone. My fingers felt clumsy, alien. I unlocked it. And there it was. A string of messages, a timeline of deception that stretched back weeks, maybe months. Pet names I thought were only ours. Plans I knew nothing about. Inside jokes I wasn't privy to. The casual cruelty of their shared secrets, layered one on top of the other. It wasn't just an affair, it was a parallel life they had built, right under my nose, using the infrastructure of my trust, the foundation of my home. The betrayal was absolute. It wasn't just him. It was her too. The two people I loved and trusted most, standing shoulder to shoulder, united in their deception. The phone felt heavy in my hand, a weapon turned against me. I scrolled back, reading words that felt like they were burning my retinas. They were so careful, so calculating, discussing me in hushed tones, planning meetups, expressing impatience for the future they were building on the ashes of my present. The pain was a physical entity, a jagged shard of ice that had pierced my chest. It stole my breath. My vision blurred with tears that wouldn't fall. I stood in the middle of my kitchen, the heart of my home, and felt utterly, completely lost. The silence screamed louder now, filled with the echoes of their whispered lies. They didn't even have the decency to look me in the eye when they finally told me. He came home later that day, his face a carefully constructed mask of regret. Sarah was with him. She couldn't meet my gaze. He said it was over, that he was leaving. For her. The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. My world imploded. The air felt thin, brittle. The walls seemed to press in on me. I don't remember exactly what I said, or if I said anything at all. My body felt disconnected, a puppet with severed strings. There was shouting, I think, a blur of accusations and justifications that made no sense. His voice, usually familiar and comforting, sounded alien, cold. Hers was a whimper, a pathetic attempt at apology I couldn't stomach. Then they were gone. Just gone. The door closing behind them echoed like a gunshot in the sudden, vast emptiness of the house. The silence that followed was the worst sound I had ever heard. The silence of abandonment. The silence of utter, devastating betrayal. The first few days were a blur of disbelief and physical pain. My body felt heavy, sluggish, as if gravity had increased its pull just for me. Eating was impossible. Sleeping was a cruel joke. Every room in the house felt haunted. The sofa where we watched movies, the bed where we slept, the kitchen where we ate. Every corner held a memory, now twisted and poisoned. I would wander from room to room, a ghost in my own life, the silence amplifying the ringing in my ears, the pounding in my temples. The sheer effort of existing felt monumental. Getting out of bed was a victory. Making a cup of tea felt like climbing a mountain. The physical space of the house, once my sanctuary, became a cage. It was too big, too empty, too full of ghosts. I'd sit on the floor in the living room, curled into a ball, and just stare at the patterns on the rug, trying to understand how everything could unravel so completely, so quickly. How the solid ground beneath my feet had dissolved into thin air. Sarah's absence was a double wound. Not only had she betrayed me with the man I loved, but she had vanished from my life, taking with her decades of shared history, of intimate confessions, of unwavering support. The best friend wound was a different kind of pain, duller maybe, but deeper. It wasn't a passionate, heartbroken agony. It was a cold, aching emptiness, the void left by a person I thought was permanently etched into the landscape of my existence. The phone calls started. Mutual friends, carefully navigating the awkward silence, offering platitudes that felt hollow. Some took sides, their loyalty shifting based on who they heard from first, who spun the more convincing narrative. The world outside the house continued to turn, but I was frozen, trapped in the amber of my grief and confusion. The house, once my haven, felt like a mausoleum, a monument to a life that was dead. I would sit in the garden he cultivated, surrounded by flowers he planted, and feel nothing but a vast, desolate emptiness. The sheer scale of the loss was overwhelming. Not just a husband, not just a friend, but the future I had envisioned, the stability I had built, the trust one had placed so completely in two people who had shattered it without a second thought. The early struggles were not about fighting back, they were about basic survival. Finding the strength to breathe. Finding a reason to face the next hour, the next day. The house was a constant, physical reminder of everything I had lost. Every object, every picture, every creaking floorboard whispered their names, their betrayal. The initial shock slowly, painfully, began to recede, replaced by a cold, hard anger. The first lawyer I saw was sympathetic but blunt. Divorce is messy. Assets are divided. The house, being in both our names, was a significant part of that. He had already made moves swift and calculated. Freezing joint accounts, diverting funds, presenting a united front with her, the woman who used to braid my hair and listen to my problems. They moved quickly, like predators circling wounded prey. His lawyer was aggressive, pushing for a quick settlement that would leave me with little more than my clothes and a fraction of the savings. The house was his main target. He wanted it. He wanted to set up his new life with her in the home we built. The audacity of it stole my breath all over again. Rising challenges came in waves. Legal papers arriving in the mail, thick envelopes filled with jargon that felt like a foreign language designed specifically to confuse and intimidate me. Phone calls from lawyers that left me feeling defeated and small. Running into them, sometimes by accident, sometimes seemingly on purpose at the grocery store, at a cafe we used to frequent together. Their smiles were too bright, their eyes too smug. They looked like they were winning. They acted like they had already won. And then there were his messages. Not to me directly, but through his lawyer, demands and ultimatums couched in legal language. And sometimes, when the legal channels weren't fast enough, he would call. His voice, once so familiar, now sharp with impatience and something that sounded suspiciously like glee. He would talk about the divorce proceedings, about the division of assets, about the house. Always the house.
He knew how much it meant to me.
How much of my identity was tied to it. He used it as leverage, as a weapon. He made it clear that he intended to take it. To leave me truly homeless, truly alone. The pressure mounted. The financial strain of paying legal fees on top of trying to manage bills on my own income, now significantly reduced without his contribution, was immense. The future I had pictured, safe and secure within the walls of my home, was dissolving before my eyes. I felt cornered, trapped. Every path forward seemed to lead to the same bleak outcome, losing the house, losing everything. His smugness grew with each passing week. He seemed to relish my discomfort, my struggle. He would send photos, sometimes innocent-looking pictures on social media, carefully curated to show their happy new life. Pictures of them in places we used to go, doing things we used to do. It was a deliberate form of psychological warfare, designed to twist the knife, to remind me of what I had lost and who had taken it. He was building his new life on the ruins of mine, and he wasn't just content, he was triumphant. He talked to mutual friends, painting a picture of me as unstable, as difficult, as the reason for the marriage's failure. He was poisoning the well, ensuring that even the few connections I had left were tainted by his narrative. The isolation deepened. The world outside the house felt hostile, unforgiving. Inside the house, the silence felt heavier. The walls seemed to echo with his triumphant laughter. I felt like I was drowning, pulled under by the weight of their betrayal and his relentless pursuit to strip me of everything. It was during this time, in the depths of my despair, that he delivered the final blow, the one that was meant to crush me completely. He called, late one evening, his voice laced with that same cruel satisfaction I had seen in his eyes. He wasn't using his lawyer this time. This was personal. He talked about the settlement, about the house. He laid out the terms designed to leave me with nothing of value. He described his plans for the house, their plans, painting a picture of a future I was explicitly excluded from, a future being built on the very land where I had envisioned my own. He savored each word, letting them hang in the air like toxic fumes. He knew how much it hurt. He wanted it to hurt. And then he said it again. Not with the vague gesture, and the dining room setting this time. This time it was a direct statement, delivered with the chilling certainty of a man who believed he held all the cards. He laughed, a short, sharp bark of triumph down the phone line. And then, he repeated the words that had become the soundtrack to my nightmare. "You have nothing left," he hung up before I could respond. The dial tone buzzed in my ear, a mocking sound in the quiet room. The silence returned, but it was different now. Not the silence of shock or grief. This was the silence of something else. Something colder. Something harder. Something had shifted. Something snapped. Lying there in the dark, the echo of his words ringing in my ears, the chilling certainty of his smug voice, I felt a change. It wasn't a sudden flash of inspiration or a miraculous surge of strength. It was slower, colder, like ice forming on a still lake. The despair was still there, a heavy blanket wrapped around me, but beneath it, something new was stirring. Anger, yes, but not the wild, flailing kind that had consumed me earlier. This was different. Focused.
Cold.
His words, "You have nothing left," were meant to break me. But instead, they became a catalyst. He thought he had won. He was so sure. His arrogance, his absolute certainty that he could take everything and leave me destitute, ignited a spark. A small, flickering flame in the vast darkness. He had underestimated me. He had mistaken my grief for weakness, my shock for capitulation. He saw a broken woman and assumed she would lie down and accept her fate. But he was wrong. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake, not just replaying the betrayal, but thinking, really thinking, about the house, about its history, about my history with it. It wasn't just a shared asset. It was my house, long before it was our house. I had inherited a portion of the down payment from my grandmother. We had bought it during a specific market condition that favored me. There were documents. Layers of paperwork from before the marriage, during the marriage, the joint tenancy agreement. My mind, which had been swimming in emotional turmoil, started to clear. The fog began to lift, revealing a landscape of possibilities I hadn't seen before. I got out of bed. The house felt different already. Less like a cage, more like a challenge. I went to the old filing cabinet in the den, the one we hadn't opened in years. Dust motes danced in the moonlight as I pulled out folders, old deeds, mortgage documents, wills, trusts. My grandmother's will. My parents' financial records. Bits and pieces of my family's history, intertwined with the history of this house. I worked through the night, the only sound the rustle of paper and the frantic beating of my own heart. And then I found it, buried deep within a folder labeled Family Property, Historical or Rider. An addendum to the original deed, transfer into joint ownership. Something my grandfather, a shrewd, cautious man, had insisted upon when my grandmother had first helped with the down payment, years before I even met him. It was a clause, a contingency, a protection. It stated, in clear, unambiguous legal language, that in the event of a dissolution of the marriage due to demonstrable infidelity on the part of the husband, the property would revert solely to my ownership, with a provision for fair market value buyout of his contributed equity, significantly weighted in my favor due to the initial unequal contribution and the circumstances of the dissolution. It wasn't a loophole. It was a lock, a safeguard built by people who loved me, against a scenario they had perhaps foreseen with a chilling clarity I lacked. My hands trembled again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from a surge of something potent and unexpected. Hope. Cold, hard, strategic hope. He said I had nothing left, but he was wrong. I had this. And I had my anger. And now I had a plan. The midpoint shift wasn't just about deciding to fight. It was about finding the hidden weapon, the forgotten key that could unlock the door to my freedom and dismantle his smug certainty. The house wasn't lost. It was waiting to be reclaimed. The fight intensified. Finding the rider was one thing. Making it stand up in court against his aggressive legal team was another. He reacted with fury when my lawyer presented the document. His initial confidence wavered, replaced by a venomous anger. He accused me of hiding it, of orchestrating this from the beginning. The irony was almost laughable. He was the one who had built a secret life, who had hidden his betrayal, who had orchestrated my downfall. Now he was facing the consequences of his own actions, consequences he had never imagined. The deepening crisis wasn't just about the legal battle, it was about the psychological warfare that escalated alongside it. He became desperate. He dug deeper into the mud, spreading more lies, trying to portray me as unstable, unfit, financially irresponsible. He used our shared history against me, twisting memories, weaponizing vulnerabilities I had once shared with him in trust. Sarah was a silent partner in this, her absence from the public fight almost more damning than her presence would have been. She was the ghost in the machine, the silent architect of my pain, now standing by while he tried to finish the job. Financial pressure became crippling. Legal fees piled up. My savings dwindled. There were days I looked at the mounting bills and the relentless legal documents and felt the despair creeping back in. What if the clause wasn't strong enough? What if his lawyers found a way around it? What if the judge didn't see things my way?
Doubt gnawed at me.
The smug confidence I had felt upon finding the document sometimes wavered, replaced by the familiar fear that he would, somehow, still win. He knew my breaking points. He knew how to push my buttons. He would call, sometimes from blocked numbers, just to breathe heavily into the phone, or whisper threats, or tell me how happy he was with her in my home. Each interaction was designed to chip away at my resolve, to make me question my sanity, to make me surrender. He was relentless. He fought dirty. There were moments, late at night, alone in the too-big house, when the silence felt crushing, when the ghosts of the past felt too real, and I wondered if it was worth it. If the fight, the stress, the emotional toll, was worth reclaiming walls and a roof. What was the point of winning the house if I lost myself in the process? The deepest crisis wasn't just losing the house. It was the fear of losing my spirit, of being consumed by the bitterness and the fight. I was exhausted. The weight of it all felt unbearable. He was thriving on my pain, gaining strength from my struggle. It felt like he was sucking the life out of me, piece by piece, with every legal maneuver, every cruel word. I stood on the precipice of giving up, of accepting defeat, of letting him take it all, and just walking away from the wreckage to try and build a life somewhere else, anywhere else. The thought of starting over, completely from scratch, with nothing, felt overwhelming. His words echoed. You have nothing left. It felt like he was right.
But then a memory.
A small thing, insignificant at the time, but now, in the depths of my despair, it shone like a beacon. My grandmother, sitting on that worn patch of rug, telling me stories, talking about resilience, about roots, about how a home isn't just where you live, but what you carry inside you, and how protecting what is yours, what is rightfully yours, is not greed, but strength. She built something for me long ago. A protection I had forgotten about, but she hadn't. She had seen the world, she had seen people, and she had prepared for this. For this. Her foresight was a gift, a silent show of faith in my future, a future she hoped would be secure. Giving up felt like betraying her trust, her effort, her love. It felt like letting him win not just the house, but the principal. Letting him walk away from his deception completely unscathed, while I was left with nothing.
No.
Not nothing. I had the claws. I had the truth. And I had the quiet strength my grandmother had instilled in me. The turning point wasn't a dramatic event. It was an internal shift. A hardening. A settling of resolve. The fear was still there, a cold knot in my stomach, but it was now accompanied by something steelier. Determination. A quiet fury that burned steadily, consuming the last vestiges of self-pity. I wouldn't be a victim. I wouldn't let him erase me. I wouldn't let them build their happiness on the ground where mine had been systematically demolished. I would fight, not just for the house, but for my dignity, for my right to stand on solid ground. The plan was in motion. My lawyer was confident. The legal process was slow, frustrating, but inexorable. The writer was clear, unambiguous. He could fight it, he could lie about it, but the documentation didn't lie. The day the final decision was expected loomed. It wasn't a court date, not a dramatic courtroom showdown. The legal process had concluded, submissions made, arguments heard. Now, it was just waiting for the official notification. The delivery of the final decree, the document that would formalize the outcome. My lawyer had prepared me. It would likely come by courier. A simple, official envelope. And I knew, with a certainty that went beyond hope, that the document inside would confirm my claim. The turning point was deciding to wait, to stand firm, to know, deep in my bones, that I had done everything I could, and now, the universe or justice, or maybe just the careful foresight of my grandmother, would have to take its course. He had underestimated the power of a piece of paper. He had underestimated me. The knock on the door is soft, almost hesitant. I freeze. It's a crisp autumn morning, the kind of day that used to make me feel hopeful, the sky a brilliant, impossible blue. Now, the beauty feels like a mockery. My heart pounds against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat. I know what it is. My lawyer had called earlier, a brief, quiet conversation. The paperwork was finalized. It was being delivered today.
To this address.
My address. Still my address for now. The house feels silent again, but it's a different silence this time. Tense. Expectant. I walk to the door, my legs feeling strangely heavy, detached. Through the frosted glass panel, I see the blurred shape of a person holding a rectangular package. A courier. My hand reaches for the doorknob, cold metal against my skin. I take a deep breath. This is it. The culmination of months of pain, of struggle, of a fight that felt like it would never end. I open the door. The courier is young, anonymous, holding a flat, legal envelope. He asks for my signature. My hand shakes slightly as I sign the electronic pad. He hands me the envelope. It feels heavy, substantial. Not just paper, but destiny. I thank him, my voice a little hoarse, and close the door. I don't open it immediately. I lean back against the wood, the envelope clutched in my hand, and just breathe. The house feels different now. The air seems lighter. The silence is still there, but it's no longer a silence of emptiness or despair. It's a silence of anticipation, of potential. I walk to the living room, to the window overlooking the street. I tear open the envelope, my fingers fumbling slightly with the seal. Inside, there are papers. Official-looking documents bearing seals and signatures. And there it is. The new deed. In my name. Sole owner. The property, the house, mine. Legally. Officially. The writer worked. The clause held. My grandmother's foresight, my grandfather's caution, had paid off. I hold the document, staring at the words, the reality of it sinking in. It feels surreal. Like a dream, but real. And then I see him. He's across the street, parked in his car, watching the house. He does this sometimes, a calculated display of lingering ownership, a reminder that he's still here, still waiting to take over. Sarah isn't with him this time. He's alone, probably on his way to work, taking a detour just to drive by, to see me perhaps, to see the house, to feel that sense of entitlement. He's on his phone, probably talking to his lawyer, maybe getting an update. I can't hear him, but I can see his face. It's got that look again. That smug, self-satisfied smirk. He catches my eye. He raises his hand slightly, not a wave, more a dismissive gesture, a little flick of his fingers as if to say, soon. Soon this will be mine. He smirks again, wider this time. He opens his mouth, maybe to say something into the phone, maybe to laugh. And that's when it happens. My phone rings. It's my lawyer. His voice is calm, professional. It's official, he says. The courier delivered the decree and the new deed. It's done. The property reverts to you. Effective immediately, he confirms the details, the legalities. I listen, holding the new deed in one hand, watching the man across the street, the man who told me I had nothing left, smirk at me. My lawyer keeps talking, explaining the next steps, the process for buying out his equity, the relatively small sum he is now entitled to based on the terms of the writer, a pittance compared to what he thought he would get. And then, across the street, I see his face change. The smugness vanishes. His eyes widen. He's looking at his own phone, probably receiving the same notification from his lawyer. The color drains from his face. His mouth, which was just moments ago twisted into a smirk, falls open. He shakes his head, disbelieving. He looks from his phone to the house, to me standing in the window, holding the document. He starts talking frantically into his phone, his free hand gesticulating wildly. He looks furious.
Confused.
Blindsided. He gets out of the car, slamming the door shut. He's shouting now, though I still can't hear the words. I can see the contortion of his face, the bulging veins in his neck. He's screaming. Screaming into his phone, screaming at the house, screaming at the sky. He points at me, his face a mask of rage and disbelief. He screams again, a guttural sound that I can almost feel vibrating in the air. The man who told me I had nothing left, the man who was so sure he would take everything, is standing across the street, utterly defeated, his triumph turned to ash in his mouth. He is screaming because he knows in that moment that not only did he not win, he lost everything he thought he had won. He lost his leverage, his control, his smug certainty. He lost the house.
To me.
Because of something he overlooked, something he dismissed, something he didn't even know existed. He is screaming because the woman he thought he had broken, the woman he told had nothing left, is standing in her home, holding the undeniable proof that she has taken back the one thing he most coveted. And she did it with a quiet, devastating move he never saw coming. The screaming stops eventually. He gets back in his car, slams the door again, and speeds away, tires squealing against the pavement. The silence returns, but it's different. It's a silence of victory. A quiet, profound peace settles over the house. I walk through the rooms, touching the walls, the furniture, feeling the weight of the deed in my hand. It's mine. All mine. The house isn't haunted anymore. The ghosts have been exorcised by a piece of paper and a forgotten clause. The emotional closure isn't neat. It's messy, complicated. The pain of the betrayal still lingers, a dull ache that I suspect will never fully disappear. The friendship is irrevocably broken, a loss that feels separate from the marital one, a void that will never be filled. Winning the house back doesn't magically heal the wounds, but it provides a foundation, a starting point. It gives me back the physical space that holds my history, the history before him, the history I built independently. The house feels like home again.
My home.
It's bittersweet. I have the house, the symbol of the life we built, but the life itself is gone. The trust is shattered. The innocence is lost. But I also have a new kind of strength, a resilience forged in the fire of betrayal and struggle. I learned that strength isn't always loud or aggressive. Sometimes, it's quiet determination. It's meticulous preparation. It's finding the overlooked detail, the hidden protection, the forgotten piece of paper that can dismantle an empire of arrogance. I learned that the people closest to you can be the ones who hurt you the most, but that you can survive it. You can rebuild. You can stand on your own 2 feet. The future isn't the one I planned, not within these specific walls, not with the people I expected. But it's a future. And it's mine to build, however I see fit. The house is more than just property now. It's a symbol of my survival, of my resilience, of the quiet power of reclaiming what is rightfully yours. The smirk is gone, replaced by a scream. And the woman who had nothing left is standing in her home, ready to face the future, however uncertain, on ground that is finally, undeniably, her own. If this story hit close to home, I'd love to hear your version in the comments. Drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. Thanks for being here. Subscribing helps bring more of these stories to life.